Friends, welcome back to Medico Srinjoy. Today we'll study a very important topic of the dental histology, that is cementum and cementogenesis. Let's start with the cementum. What do you mean by cementum? Cementum is a avascular and non-innervated portion of the teeth present in the outer surface of the root. The color of the cementum is like light yellow, and its hardness order is less than the dentine. Next, we'll study a very important part of today's lecture, that is the chemical composition of cementum. In cementum, there is about 45 to 50% inorganic and 50 to 55% organic in the water. This inorganic substance will be further subdivided, and the organic and the water is further subdivided in the further slides. Friends, if you like my videos, then please subscribe the channel and hit the like button. This will make me more motivated to make more videos on these dental topics. Now let's study the inorganic composition of the cementum. The inorganic components present in the cementum is mainly calcium and phosphates in the form of hydroxyapatite crystals. Also, some trace elements are present like copper, magnesium, iron, sodium, zinc, potassium, silica, and the fluorides. Friends, it is very important to note that fluoride ions are present in the highest concentration in the cementum as compared to any other hard tissues in our whole body. Friends, this question is very frequently asked in the Viva. So remember that fluoride ions is maximum in cementum in our entire body. Next, let's move on to the organic composition of the cementum. Organic portion mainly consists of the collagen fibers, mainly type 1 collagen fiber. So you need to remember that cementum is mainly made up of type 1 collagen fibers. Some other collagens are also present in the cementum in little amounts, like the collagen type 3, type 5, type 6, type 12, type 14. I further repeat that type 1 is the main collagen type, but other types of collagens are also found. These are type 3, type 5, type 6, type 12, and type 14. Some non-collagenous proteins are also present, like the alkaline phosphatase, osteonectin, osteocalcilin, sialoproteins, osteopontin, proteoglycans, growth factors, calcium-derived attachment proteins, and the calcium-derived growth factors. All these names are very important for the Viva. Next, we'll move on to a very small topic, that is the types of the cementum. Cementum can be further divided into cellular and the acellular cementum. This acellular cementum, I repeat, this acellular cementum is the primary cementum or the acellular extrinsic fiber cementum. So acellular cementum has three names: the acellular cementum, primary cementum, and the acellular extrinsic fiber cementum. While the cellular cementum is also called the secondary cementum or the cellular intrinsic fiber cementum. Next, we will learn these two cementums in detail in next slides. First, let's start with the acellular cementum. What do you mean by this acellular cementum? These acellular cementums are the primary cementums, and these are formed slowly and covers the cervical 2/3 of the root. So these are formed earlier and slowly and covers the 2/3 cervical portion of the root. Next, we need to know that these are present in the single rooted teeth only. These are present in the single rooted teeth and contains only extrinsic fibers of the periodontal ligament, which are formed by the fibroblast. Also, cementoids and cementocytes are absent here, and the incremental lines of the Salter are close to each other in this acellular cementum, and the cementoblasts are derived from the Hartwig epithelial root sheet, and the main function of the acellular cementum is for the anchorage. Next, we will move on to the cellular cementum. So, what are the cellular cementum? Cellular cementums are the secondary cementums, and they are formed rapidly in the later stage of our life during repair and are mainly present in the apical 1/3 of the root and the furcations of the teeth. So, these are mainly found in the apical 1/3 of the root and the furcations. These cementums are absent in the single rooted teeth. So you remember that the acellular cementum are present in the single rooted teeth, while their cellular cementum are absent in the single rooted teeth. Next, we need to know that it contains only intrinsic fibers which are produced by the cementoblasts, and the incremental lines of salters are wide apart here. Next, we need to know that the main function of the cellular cementum is the adaptation and repair. Next, we will move on to the very important topic of our today's lecture, that is the different junctions of the cementum. Friends, this is a very important question for the university exams. This question is often asked in the 5 marks or 10 mark questions. So let's start. What are the different junctions of the cementum? Different junctions of cementums are the cemento-enamel junction and the cemento-dental junction. First, we will study the cemento-enamel junction in details. These cemento-enamel junctions can be of three types. First is the end-to-end approximating junction or the butt junction. Next, we have the cementum overlapping the enamel junction or the overlapping junction. And third, we have the absence of connecting enamel and the cementum, that is the gap junction. First, we will read the end-to-end approximating junction. These are mainly found in 30% of the teeth, and cementum meets cervical end of the enamel in a relatively sharp line. Next, we have the gap junction. These gap junctions are found only in the 10% of the teeth. So these are found in the least quantity, that is only in the 10% of the teeth. And here the enamel and the cementum do not meet. This occurs, the cause of the occurrence is that the enamel epithelium in the cervical portion of the root delayed in the separation from the dentine. Next, we have the third type, that is the cementum overlapping the enamel or the overlapping junction. In approximately 60% of the teeth, so these are the majority, that is in the approximately 60% of the teeth, cementum overlaps the cervical end of the enamel for a short distance. So here the cementum overlaps the enamel. This occurs when the enamel epithelium degenerates at its cervical termination, permitting connective tissue of the dental follicle to come in direct contact with the enamel surface while produce the afibrillar cementum. So this occurs mainly when it degenerates at its cervical termination, which permits the connective tissue of the dental follicle and which in future directly contact the enamel surface and produce a very important type of cementum, which is called the afibrillar cementum. So the question is, what are these afibrillar cementum? These afibrillar cementum are the laminated and electron dense reticular material. So these afibrillar cementum are nothing but they are laminated and electron dense reticular material. Next, we'll move on to the next part of the junction of the cementum, that is the cemento-dental junction. As the name suggests, the cemento-dental junctions are nothing but the apical area of the cementum. So these are the apical area of the cementum where it joins the internal root canal of the dentine. So these are the apical area of the cementum and it joins the internal root canal of the cemento-enamel junction. So let us study this cemento-enamel junction further. So these cemento-enamel junctions are nothing but the apical area. So these are the apical area of the cementum and it joins the internal root canal of the dentine, and this is called the cemento-enamel junction. Sometimes the dentine gets separated from the cementum, and this zone is called the intermediate cementum or hyaline layer of Hopwell-Smith. This question is very important for the Viva question. What is the hyaline layer of Hopwell-Smith. This hyaline layer of Hopwell-Smith is nothing but the dentin which gets separated from the cementum and forms a zone which is called the intermediate cementum or the hyaline layer of the Hopwell-Smith. This Cemento-Dentinal Junction is prominently visible in the apical two-thirds of the root of the molars and the premolars. Also, it does neither exhibit characteristics of cementum nor of the dentin and appears as structureless. So, this is a structureless structure. Next, we need to know that this layer represents the areas where the Hartwig epithelial root sheath gets entrapped in a rapidly deposited dentin or cementum matrix, and this layer is considered to be of the dentinal origin. It's very important to know that the cemento-dentinal junction is considered to be of the dentinal origin. Friends, we also need to know that cementum is more resistant to resorptions than bone. This is a short question which mainly comes in the MCQs in the university exams, that which of the following is more resorptive. The options may be bone, dentin, cementum, etc. So the answer will be cementum is more resistant to resorption than bone. So this helps in the orthodontic tooth movement. So this is a clinical importance of the cementum, that it is more resorptive to than the bone. So it helps in the orthodontic tooth movement. Next, we'll move on to a topic that is the functions of the cementum. There are mainly three functions of the cementum. These are anchorage, adaptation, and the repair. First, we will study anchorage. It is a primary function and provides a medium for the attachment of the collagen fibers, which bind a tooth to the alveolar bone. So this is the primary function. Next function is the adaptation. What does this adaptation? This adaptation means that the deposition of the cementum in an apical area can compensate for the loss of tooth substance from the occlusal wire. So the adaptation is that the cementum in the apical area compensates the loss of the tooth substance from the occlusal wear and tear. Next, we have the repair function. What does this repair function? This is the damage up to the root. If there is a damage to the root, that is by the furcation, fractures, or the resorptions, anything that is maybe occur by the fracture resorption, can be repaired by the deposition of the cellular cementum. Okay, that the repair portion is that it may be by the fracture or resorptions, and it gets repaired by the deposition of the cellular cementum. Next, we will study the different types of cells structures of the cementum. It is a very important question for the viva, that is what are the different types of the cells and the structures of cementum. First, we have the cementoblasts, cementocytes, cementoid, Sharpie's fiber, and the incremental lines of the Salter. Let's study the first one, that is a cementoblast. These cementoblasts are the cementum secreting cells. So this is very simple, as the name suggests, blast. So cementoblast, this means it is a cementum secreting cell. This cell synthesize a collagen and protein polysaccharide which make up the organic matrix of the cementum. Also, the mitochondria, Golgi bodies, endoplasmic reticulum are very numerous in these cementoblasts. Next, we will study the cementocytes. What are these cementocytes? These cementocytes are the spider-like cells that are incorporated into the cellular cementum. These cementocytes lie in the lacunae and are similar to the osteocytes. So these cells are similar to the osteocytes. Next, we need to note that the typical cementocyte has a numerous cell processes and canaliculi which radiates from its cell body. These processes may branch and anastomose with those of the neighboring cells. Also, the cementocytes are either degenerating or marginally active cells. So these are either degenerating or the marginally active cells. But the question is why? Because these cells have the endoplasmic reticulum which are dilated and mitochondria are sparse. So endoplasmic reticulum and mitochondria, those both have degenerating characters. So it is believed that the cementocytes are either degenerating or marginally active cells. Next, we will move on to the cementoid. What are these cementoids? Cementoids are nothing but the uncalcified matrix of the cementum. So these are the uncalcified matrix of the cementum. Next, we have the Sharpies fiber. This is a very important Viva question, that what do you mean by the Sharpies fiber? Sharpies fiber are the connective tissue fibers which are embedded in the cementum and serve to attach the tooth to the surrounding bone. It's a very simple answer, that Sharpies fibers are nothing but the connective tissue fibers which are embedded in the cementum and serve to attach the tooth to the surrounding bone. Next, we have the incremental lines of Salter. This is also a very important question for the Viva. That is, what do you mean by the incremental lines of Salter? This incremental line of Salter separates the cellular and the acellular cementum into layers. So, this separates the cellular acellular cementum into layers, which indicates a periodic function. So, it indicates the periodic functions. Next, we will move on to the next major subpart of our today's lecture, that is, what is cementogenesis. So friends, comment this in our comment box, that what do you mean by cementogenesis. So cementogenesis is nothing but a very deep process in which the cementum is a hard tissue get deposited on the surface of the dentin. The process includes many steps, like once the root dentin formation has initiated. So it starts with the formation of dentin on the root. Next, which occurs is that the hard-twig epithelial root sheath gets fragmented into network. So the first step is, once the root dentin formation has been initiated, the hard-twig epithelial root sheath gets fragmented into networks. Next step is that the ectomesenchymal cells of the dental follicles get passed through and contact the root dentin. So the ectomesenchymal cells of the dental follicle pass through and gets contact with the root denticle. The next step is that these follicular cells, so these follicular cells differentiate into cementoblasts, and these cementoblasts produce the organic matrix on the cementum. Further, the mineralization of the cementoid occurs. What is this mineralization occurs? The calcium and the phosphate ions present in the tissue fluids get deposited in the matrix and are arranged as the hydroxyapatite. And the final step is that the connective tissue fibers from the periodontal ligament passes between the cementum and serves to attach the tooth to the surrounding bone. These fibers are called as the Sharpies fiber. So friends, this ends our today's lecture of the cementum. This is a very important topic for both the Viva and the university exam. So please friends, read this topic many times so that you don't forget the topic. Next day we will study a very short topic, that is the periodontal ligament. If you friends like my videos, then please subscribe the channel and hit the like button and share this with your friend and share knowledge. So friends, keep supporting. Thank you.